This is for you. Oh!
Hey, hey.
Azaga, zaga, zaga. Azaga, zaga.
Hey, hey, Boshika.
What's the chicos?
Hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, Boshika.
No, I want any.
Hello, everybody. Do you ever wonder who is the wind beneath my wings? Here they are. Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wankwa coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on LNTV. And as usual, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world.
No, I want any. Kaikene Fred Wankwo Ezudo Eze Nwafosi Ajalebia Publisher African Lifestyle Magazine Chicago Nwafo Nde Chicago Chiejemba.
Once again, thank you, everybody. Welcome to our fast-growing show. And I'm not taking it for granted. I want every one of you who have been viewing me and who have been sharing, I want to thank you for viewing. I want to thank you for sharing. But I want to remind you of one thing. Bold Talk on LNTV is all about researched, factual news. Not what people want to hear. We say boldly, you are never going to accuse us of sharing fake news. However, we are never gonna grow and get to where we need to get if you don't help us. We are appealing to you not just to watch, not just to spend time viewing. Please share the video, like the video, subscribe to the video, and make comments. Tell us what we are doing right. We're not always saying that the way we said it was right. There are times when you may agree with us, but you're telling us, come on, man, you're hitting too hard. We listen as long as it doesn't take away from who we are. And who we are is Bold Talk on LNTV. Please share. The goal here is to hit 100,000 subscribers. And we're way far from that. But we know we can do it with your help. Now to my main story today. Nigeria needs a revolution. However, Nigeria doesn't need a bloody revolution. And I bring this up because I studied what happened in Malawi. In 2015, Malawi's president, Peter Mutharika, I think that's his name, appointed Justice Andrew Nyirenda as the new Chief Justice of Malawi. At that stage, everything was fine and dandy. Chief Justice Nyirenda was and remains an excellent justice. Ironically, in the election that re-elected President Mutharika in Miami, that election was largely flawed and rigged. Rigging elections is common across the world, not just in Africa. However, what happened in Malawi is something that will shock anybody who follows the crooked, dirty rigging politics in Africa. Because Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda, who was appointed by President Mutharika, whose party rigged the election, felt that the election that re-elected President Mutharika was grossly flawed, and he ordered a rerun election. Leading up to the rerun election, President Mutharika sought to remove Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda from the courts, to replace him with a maneuverable justice that will help him rig the rerun election. Enter the citizens of Malawi. The citizens of Malawi took to the streets and occupied the streets of Malawi, and they also blockaded the Chief Justice's residence so that the crony army that President Mutharika would send was unable to now come in to remove the Chief Justice. 2 weeks later, a rerun election was held, and President Mutharika lost in that rerun election. That became a perfect gentleman and ladies coup that happened in Malawi to sustain their democracy and made it even stronger. Now let's be clear before some bigots start accusing me of calling for a coup. I am not calling for a military coup. I am calling for civil disobedience. Besides, Nigeria doesn't need a military coup. The military in Nigeria is pocket compromised. There are no brave young officers in that army to do what brave officers did in Niger Republic and in Burkina Faso to save their countries from drug lords and cronies and crooks and 419ers taking over. It's the citizens who have the power to change what's going on in Nigeria today. And it doesn't have to be about the obedience, because the drug lord that rules Nigeria and his cronies have conveniently labeled the obedient movement an Igbo movement, because their scapegoats in Nigeria are Igbos. And once you say the name Igbo, the bigoted Yorubas and the Fulani cabal will go up in arms, get into the central bank, empty the central bank to bribe everybody in the country to say, those Igbos have started again. This doesn't have to be about Igbos. This doesn't have to be about just obedience. The obedience are already mobilized enough, but the obedience need to reach out and bring in progressives from across the 36 states of Nigeria. There are progressive Fulanis, and we've seen them on TV over the last 12 months. There are progressive Yorubas. That's the reason Peter Obi destroyed the drug lord and Sanwo-Olu in Lagos. There are progressive Edos, progressive Ibibios, progressive Effiks, Ijos, Urobos, Hausas. There are progressives all over Nigeria. Malawi is a tiny country, and they don't have what we have in Nigeria in terms of the progressive spirit. But they have something we don't have in Nigeria. They have the will and the determination to say our democracy is not going to die. Folks, independent judiciaries are not handed to you. Independent judiciaries are demanded and taken by taking to the streets in a civil disobedient way. It's time for Nigerians to take Nigeria back from a drug lord and cronies like Onyesom Wike and the Ojikalos and the Chimarokes and the El Rufais and the Akpabios. It's time for Nigeria to take their country back. Progressive Nigerians should stop sitting back and thinking that this group has a conscience. There is no conscience in them. All they care is stealing and stealing and stealing. All you need to do is look at their antecedents and look at the cronies they've been appointing both in the legislative arm and the executive. And realistically, not even the Labour Party legislators have shown any balls to show that they are willing to challenge these crooks. Today, Malawi enjoys a thriving democracy. And Chief Justice Nyirenda, when he left office, went on to the International Monetary Fund to be one of the judges in their tribunal. When Nigeria's Chief Justice Olukayode Ariwoola retires, will he be called by the International Monetary Fund? Will he be called by the World Court? I think Justice Odili is retired, but if she's not, when she's retired, which prestigious court is she going to be invited to? And which reputable institution around the world, or even in Nigeria, which reputable institution is going to invite Chief Justice Ariwoola and Justice Odili and the rest of the cronies on Nigeria's Supreme Court? Which institution is going to invite them to come and speak on democracy or the judiciary? You don't have to answer that question. It's just food for thought. But going back to the Malawi story, the reason this story touches home for me is that my magazine in Chicago used to hold an annual award ceremony. And there is a man in Chicago who his friends call him Malawi. And I was at an event one time where I was selling tickets to my event, and he happened to be there, and I sold him a ticket. $75 he paid for that ticket. My event usually attracts 200 guests every year at $75. Beautiful event, great evening, a lot of fun and a lot of serious discussions. Malawi, the Malawian, did not attend the event. And when I ran into him again and said, "What happened? I didn't see you," he said something that shocked me as a Nigerian. He said to me, "Fred, I was looking all over for my ticket. I couldn't find my ticket. I wanted to come, but without my ticket, I couldn't get in, so I didn't come." And I laughed and I said, "Malawi, you should have come, get to the gate, tell them to call Fred, and I'll come out and let you in." He said, "I didn't know I could do that." Why is that story so important? It's the difference between the civility of Malawi citizens and the feeling of entitlement and crudeness that is so part of the Nigerian culture. And that's why we have the kind of country we have, where everything is so lawless. Now let me bring in the Nigerian story, which is a big part of why I told the the Malawi story. In 2019, if you recall, ahead of the elections, maybe it was in 2018, but the gist is the same. President Buhari, ahead of his re-election, cleverly, because APC gets very clever when a crooked thing is about to happen, President Buhari cleverly removed Justice Onohen, Chief Justice Onohen, from his position as Chief Justice of Nigeria and replaced him with some guy I'm not even going to give the credit of mentioning his name, because his tenure as Chief Justice was a disgrace to a country that is filled with very brilliant judicial minds. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the disgrace the world's biggest black country had as its Chief Justice for 3 or 4 years. Sickeningly shameful. Just listen to a sampling of his presentation at his confirmation to become Nigeria's Chief Justice. Embarrassing.
A technicality. Something which is technical, in my definition, it is something that is not usual, that may sometimes defy all the norms known to a normal thing. It may be technical. Now, we have technicalities in our laws, and this is because these laws that we have inherited, we inherited them from the British. The British people have, for quite centuries ago, introduced what is known as technicalities in their laws.
They removed Chief Justice Onohen to put in place a Chief Justice that will help them rig the election in 2019. If you recall, PDP would have destroyed APC in Lagos, just as Peter Obi did in the last election, if it wasn't that Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his cronies rigged the election in Lagos with thugs and intimidation. Nigeria needs a civil disobedience movement that will occupy the streets of Nigeria from one end to the other. Nigeria needs a coalition of progressives that includes the obedient movement, but not limited to the obedient movement. If Malawi could do it, Nigeria can do it 50 times better. Africa and Africans and the entire black world is depending on Nigeria to lead the way. It is the responsibility of the moderates and progressives in Nigeria that don't look at tribes. It is our responsibility to put an end to this craziness. The rascality has to stop. And obedience needs to reach out to progressives across Nigeria. Nigeria needs a civil disobedience movement. And it will happen. Every day for the thief, one day for the owner. The owner of Nigeria are progressive Nigerians, the tribalized Nigerians. We cannot let these crooks, these drug dealers from all 36 states, not just the crook in Asher Rock. He has cronies in every state, including my state, Anambra. We cannot let them take over our country. Enough is enough. Let's take our country back. Please share this broadcast, like this broadcast, subscribe to this broadcast. And as always, this is Fred Nwankwo coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. And until next time, good night and God bless. Atuma e pijo psycho ndabanyo. What them on them? Abama ndaba. Bob solo e Bob dampa ndabanyo.